What's going on YouTube? It's the Bushy Beard and I'm back and I'm bushier than ever. And right now I got the top 10 teenagers who freaked out after given a life sentence. If you don't know, I'm a lawyer. Well, it's interesting to say that now. I am actually a lawyer. I'm not a law student. And so this will be interesting. I'm not against life sentences or the death penalty per se. A lot of people are, and I understand the reasons why people are against life sentences and the death penalty. But I guess I should make this big. We all have our own opinions, and that's what's great about each individual person in this world. So we're going to watch this, and I kind of hope they give like a synopsis of the crime, and I can tell you whether or not I think it's worth the life sentence or not. But let's get into it. I think I just saw like a video on this guy in particular and his crime, which it was crazy.
At the time of all these crimes, I don't know what is going through these convicts' minds.
Shout out to Most Amazing Top 10, I believe it's called. I will leave the link down in the bio.
Their heads wired differently than normal people's? I mean, what gives these convicts the abilities to go through such horrible crimes? Well, because our last video on here, Top 10 Convicts Who Freaked Out After Given a Life Sentence, went super viral with over 10 million views in just days, I decided to create this video for you guys. If you want to...
If one thing goes viral, do it again.
Click right over here. It's the #1 trending video on YouTube in Canada. It is absolutely insane. And I just want to say thank you guys so much. It's unbelievable. So I do feel really sad for these teenagers who you're about to see.
I mean, it's okay to feel sad, I guess, for them. Some places life doesn't always mean life. In Florida it does. If you get a life sentence, you don't get parole. But depending on the crime, it's kind of hard to feel sad.
Who were given life sentences, but when you find out the crimes that they've committed, I mean, do we really feel bad for them? Yeah. How long do you guys think life sentences should be? Let me know in the comment section below.
I mean, it should be the length of the name, life.
Because I know in different countries, it's different. In Finland, the life sentence is 12 years. In France, is 30 years.
It's not a life sentence then. If it's 12 years, it's not a life sentence. It's a 12-year sentence. If it's a 30-year sentence, it's not life. It's a 30-year sentence.
Okay, so let's get started with this list. This is the top 10 teenagers who freaked out after given a life sentence. Number 10.
I need to kill Oscar. Ashley, I really didn't. I really think I did that. I didn't mean to hurt him.
That was 17-year-old Dylan Shymaker, who fatally beat his girlfriend's 23-month-old son. I mean... Is this real life right now? I watched videos about this kid's case, and his lawyers were trying to justify that Dylan has an anger problem. He didn't mean to kill the 23-month-old baby. He didn't know how to control himself. I'm not sure why there are lawyers defending people like this, you know, defending killers.
That's a very good question, and it's often asked. As somebody who worked with the Innocence Project, it was continually asked to me. But you gotta protect constitutional rights, you know? Sometimes you're not going to get them off. Like, that's not, a lot of times, that's not the goal of representation. Sometimes the goal is to make sure the police did what they were supposed to. Like in OJ's case, they didn't do what they were supposed to. They didn't collect the blood, the DNA, the way they were supposed to. He lied on the stand. There were a lot of things in that case that, as a defense attorney, you point out, and hopefully that you'll either lessen the sentence or get them off. But we have a system in place to try to make sure that everybody does the right thing, does the thing that they're supposed to, and if they don't, then you got to make sure that your client's rights are protected, because sometimes you might get the wrong person.
That little baby didn't have a chance at life. What is his lawyers thinking? What are they fighting for?
But there were other dynamics at work there, including my client's inability to either control his anger or frustration and his inexperience in babysitting.
So this took place in Buffalo in the States, and jurors convicted Dylan of second-degree murder. The judge sentenced him to 15 years to life in prison, which is the maximum punishment in Buffalo. Moving into number 9.
Which isn't really a life sentence. What that means is you serve between 15 years and life, which means you'll probably get out early on parole. So at least his life wasn't necessarily ruined. It's a tough thing because the kid was 23 months old and you killed him. I don't know if you necessarily meant, like, obviously he was saying he didn't mean to, which is why he didn't get first-degree murder. But it's a slippery slope.
We have this girl who freaked out after she was given a life sentence. She was hyperventilating, like, So just before the panic attacks were happening, this girl fell to the ground and she started yelling in the courtroom.
What did she do?
The woman's family was also freaking out.
I want to know what she did.
All right, number 8.
How do we not? You...
I gotta wake up every day with that.
I said something earlier. Convicted of second-degree murder. Okay. So he won't get a real life
Wake up
sentence.
every day with that. So, just ask. Actually, I'm just sorry.
I know it's hard to understand what this kid is saying, but he's begging for forgiveness. It's a hard video to watch. I know people make mistakes, but killing someone isn't something that society can forgive, or can they?
John, is there anything you want to say before
Some societies are more welcome to forgiving than others.
sentencing?
Well, that was 17-year-old John Freeman, who was saying sorry to the victim's family after he strangled a 5-year-old girl to death. I mean, in that moment, was he really sorry? This also took place near Buffalo, and he was given 25 years to life, and this is for a second-degree murder in which John Freeman pleaded guilty to. So when John turns 42 years old, a judge will determine whether or not John is a danger to himself or to society, and if he's going to be released. Hopefully, if he is released, he's a changed person. There are also many people who have served a number of years to life who just don't get released from prison because they're just always deemed as a danger to society. So although you get like,
Which is a very slippery slope as well. It gets into psychology, and also it's a way to keep certain people in that you might not want out, or that there's was used to keep certain races in longer. It's interesting. It's just there's the history of a panel of people choosing whether or not you're ready to go based on psychological evaluation. It's a slippery slope.
15 years to life, you can serve like 50 years. All right, moving into number 7, we have this. You couldn't see the guy
I think this is what the person grabbed the gun.
talking about during this part of the video, but who you're about to see is 19-year-old Dexter Johnson, who is 19 years old at the time, so he raged out in court when he was given the death sentence. I guess he has nothing else to lose. This is what this guy looks like.
Punishment of death. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, this is going to complete your jury service. I'm going to meet you in the jury room.
All rise.
The jurors convicted Dexter Johnson of capital murder. Dexter was involved in a carjacking, robbery, rape, and murder of 23-year-old Maria Paris. Dexter is now 28 years old, and he's still on death row. And right now, he does not have an execution date. Although someone is given the death penalty, it takes a very long time to go through the whole process.
It does, and some people are. That's the main reason people are against necessarily having the death penalty is because the expense of it. But the appeal process, like, wouldn't you want that in place to make sure that you're not killing an innocent person? It's interesting. again, one of those things it's just an interesting thing.
Do you guys believe in the death penalty? Sound off in the comment section.
I do.
At number 6, we now have teenager Samantha Grigg, who was...
I think it needs to be changed. I always need to preface it. I believe it needs to be changed. There are some people that I believe... I think the way it needs to be changed is you kill 2 or more people at one time. No, how did I have it? 3 or more people at one time, or multiple people over a period of days. So, like mass shootings. So somebody that goes in and we all understand mass shootings, or somebody that is like a serial killer type, where they do it over multiple times. I think a lot of times killings are personal and are because somebody doesn't like somebody. Although that's not good, it's changeable, and I think it's more fixable than somebody who maybe kills over a couple of days. It's just my opinions.
Charged for murdering a Michigan State University student, Dustin Frolka.
Grigg pleaded guilty to unarmed robbery and manslaughter in Frolka's death. The 19-year-old's body was found along I-69 last February. He had been beaten with brass knuckles, robbed.
This case just doesn't seem to make sense to me. 16-year-old Samantha at the time decided to plan a kidnapping to rob and kill Frolka. I mean, she's 16. How do you have these thoughts? She had someone help her as well, and that was 18.
Tough upbringing.
Year-old Tyrell Bredernitz. So the reason why this doesn't make sense, because it does seem like Samantha had a really bright future. She threw it all away. She was actually a lead singer of her band, and she was actually quite good.
Singer in a band.
Number 5, we have this teenager who, after given his sentencing, turned around and just attacks the people in the first row. I think it was the victim's family.
No, Your Honor. Nothing, thank you.
Yeah, luckily the police was right there to get on top of the
Luckily, they were right there. Like, as soon as he turned around, they were there.
situation, to handle the situation before anyone got hurt. All right, number 4.
Can't, they understand the seriousness of the crime.
Barbeau will almost certainly start his prison sentence at the Department of Corrections, Lincoln Hills School for Boys, north of Wausau.
That was 15-year-old Antonio Barbeau at the time of his trial. This one is pretty messed up, but he was given a life sentence for killing his great-grandmother back in 2012. He was just 13 years old. Antonio and his friend killed his great-grandmother with a hatchet and a hammer. The great-grandmother was 78 years old, and this is just so sickening. Antonio won't be eligible for release until he's 50 years old. The article I was reading about this stated that Antonio's lawyers said the punishment was cruel and unusual. I mean, are they freaking kidding me? There's no way that the lawyer actually said this in court.
So, for those who aren't necessarily American or familiar, cruel and unusual is a constitutional amendment, the 8th Amendment, where it's a prohibition against cruel and unusual punishment in America. I wouldn't say that's necessarily cruel or unusual. The fact that he has the ability to get out of prison. He was young. It was 13 when he killed her, 15 when he went to prison. I don't know necessarily that that's cruel or unusual.
How does that lawyer even sleep at night trying to get this?
Again, you gotta, as a lawyer, a defense lawyer specifically, you gotta protect your client's constitutional rights. That's what you're there for as a defense attorney, and so you can't get mad at the defense attorneys for doing their job. That's what they're there for in the justice system.
Killer out to the public sooner. The reason why Antonio killed his great-grandmother was for money. It's so sickening. I think the punishment wasn't cruel enough, but that's just my opinion. Moving into number 3, we have an 18-year-old who was sentenced to 20 years in state prison for using a dating app to set up a robbery that resulted in a shootout. In the footage I'm about to play for you guys, I really feel bad for this mother who is just so hurt. Once she finds out her daughter was charged and sentenced to 20 years in prison, she totally loses it. She freaks out, and then the teenager starts to freak out as well. This one is really sad. Watch.
20 years in state prison. years in state prison. Current.
The teenager was then quickly taken out of the courtroom by police officers, and the mother was just left there to cry. She was so heartbroken, and I would be as well if I found out that my kid committed a robbery and guns were used and then they were sentenced to 20 years in prison. It's like you lost them. I'm not sure if she is even able to get out of prison sooner.
Yeah, normally you do. 20 years, you'll probably be out. I don't know exactly how it works, but you'll be out pretty quick with good time. I say pretty quick, but 10 plus years. Yeah.
But she did use a deadly weapon during this robbery that could have resulted in someone losing their life. Do you guys think that 20 years was, maybe too harsh of a punishment for this crime? All right, number 2.
Saying pull the trigger, the killer
Could be.
now masturbates to memory.
Whoa, wait, what did he say?
Saying pull the trigger, the killer's son now masturbates to memory.
What the?
Saying pull the trigger, the killer's son now masturbates to memory. All of you.
Wow.
Sentencing Lane to life in prison, Judge David Fury said he lacked remorse and had feigned mental illness.
So this guy might look familiar to you guys, and to be honest with you, I don't care if this guy gets left in prison and forgotten about for the rest of his life.
Yeah, that's pretty effed up what he said.
So who you just saw was TJ Lane, the teenager who was in front of a judge for sentencing for a school shooting in Ohio back in 2012. TJ was 17 years old when he shot and killed 3 students and injured another 3. Although TJ was a minor at the time of the attack during the sentencing, he was tried as an adult and he was given 3 life sentences in prison without parole. Well, just a few years after the attack, TJ, he was actually able to escape prison. This was just 8 days before his birthday, and he escaped from Allen Correctional Institution in Ohio along with 2 other inmates. He was able to escape using a makeshift ladder. They used it to scale down a fence during recreation hours. One of the men was quickly recaptured, but TJ and another man who was serving a 12-year sentence for aggravated robbery and burglary and kidnapping remained at large. Police conducted a nationwide search and told nearby residents to lock their doors. Eventually, both men were captured, and TJ was then put into a small cell for 23 hours a day, and he stayed there until he awaited for his transfer to a maximum security prison. A prison where hopefully you can't make a makeshift ladder and escape again. And finally, at number...
Yeah, luckily he didn't, hurt anybody while he escaped. A lot of times you hear about prisoners who escape that end up doing something else that really we don't want to happen. And so luckily that didn't happen.
Number 1, we have this scary freakout from a California teenager who was begging to not go to prison.
Can't do the time, don't do the crime.
That was 18-year-old Fernando Elgato, who was accused of rape. He denies all claims, and he was freaking out when he was being sentenced because he was actually afraid of going back to prison. For some reason, he thought that if he fought back, he would somehow be released.
It's probably not what he was thinking.
Scared of returning to jail, 18-year-old...
I feel really bad for this kid because if he actually didn't do it, he just appeared in front of a judge, he got sentenced, and now he's going back to prison where I don't really know what happens there. I can only imagine. So I would be freaking out too, but if this guy actually did the crime, no remorse for me. Well,
I feel the same way. Anyways, guys, I don't think he probably got a life sentence out of that last one, but it is what it is. I hope you all have wonderful days. If you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. If you didn't, you can give it a thumbs down. It's not going to hurt me, or you can give it a thumbs up because it's not going to hurt you. If you're new or you haven't yet, please do consider subscribing. It really does help out the channel. We're on our way to 42,000, which is crazy to me. I appreciate each and every one of y'all that subscribe to my channel, that watch my videos. It means the world to me. I hope each and every one of y'all have an absolutely fantastic day/night. And as always, until next time, YouTube, smile like you mean it. From the Bushy Beard.